9th, 2022, the digital ghost of North Korea vanishes. Without warning, the nation's handful of connections to the global internet are severed. Government websites, propaganda portals, and email servers blink offline, plunging the world's most isolated state into an even deeper darkness. In Washington, Seoul, and Beijing, intelligence agencies scramble for answers. The timing, just after a series of provocative missile tests, suggests a targeted cyber attack, a show of force from a rival superpower. The world pointed its fingers at governments and clandestine agencies, searching for the invisible army that had brought a country to its knees. But the truth was infinitely stranger, and it began not in a fortified government bunker, but in the quiet suburbs of America, with a single man in his pajamas, holding a grudge. A year before the blackout, the hunter became the hunted. An American cybersecurity researcher, known only by his handle, P4X, was at his desk when he received a file from a colleague, a new hacking tool, supposedly. He was cautious, opening it inside a sandboxed, secure environment. Nothing happened, but a day later, a bombshell report from Google revealed a coordinated campaign by North Korean operatives to compromise Western security experts using that very method. P4X re-examined the file, and his stomach dropped. Buried in the code was a backdoor, a secret entrance for spies. He had narrowly dodged a bullet, but the audacity of the attack left him shaken. This wasn't some faceless corporation being targeted. This was personal. Pyongyang's spies had come for him, hoping to steal his tools and turn his own expertise against the West. He was a target, and the assassins were spies from the world's most reclusive nation. But this was only the first move in a much deadlier game. An attack by foreign operatives on American soil should have triggered an earthquake. P4X assumed his government would descend with the full force of its intelligence apparatus. An FBI agent did contact him, but it was just to take a statement. Then, nothing. No follow-up calls, no offers to help secure his systems, no indication of any official retaliation against the perpetrators. Weeks bled into months, and the silence from Washington was deafening. It was as if no one cared. P4X felt a cold, creeping sense of abandonment. "There's really nobody on our side," he concluded bitterly. He was a private citizen, exposed and targeted by a hostile nation, yet his own government had left him to fend for himself. Because he had been attacked, but no one offered help, therefore a seed of resentment began to take root. That seed would soon grow into a dark and audacious plan. If the world's most powerful government wouldn't protect its own, P4X decided he would have to teach North Korea a lesson himself. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and for P4X, it would be served over fiber optic cables. He began quietly turning his skills from defense to offense, transforming from the hunted into the hunter. His target, North Korea's entire internet. What he found astonished him. The digital fortress of the Hermit Kingdom was, in reality, a dilapidated shack. The nation's online presence was minuscule, propped up by a few dozen websites running on ancient, neglected software. To a hacker of his caliber, it was a graveyard of known vulnerabilities, flaws that had been discovered years ago and that system administrators everywhere else had long since patched. Old versions of server software were rife with holes. One outdated web server was so fragile it would collapse if you simply sent it a malformed request. North Korea hadn't just left a window open, it had left the front gates wide open with a welcome mat. As his confidence grew, he began writing custom scripts, tools of automation that would allow one man to strike with the force of an army. The plan was audacious, illegal, and intensely dangerous. But as 2022 dawned. The code was written, the targets were locked, and his finger hovered over the key. For a man about to declare a private cyber war on a nuclear state, the setting was surreal. There was no command center, just a home office. His uniform wasn't military fatigues, but a t-shirt, pajama pants, and slippers. To pass the time, he put on the movie Alien and munched on spicy corn chips, a picture of suburban normalcy. But every few minutes, he would pause the film and walk over to his monitors, where streams of data were flooding towards Pyongyang. At first, there was only the quiet hum of his machines. Then, a flicker. One by one, North Korean servers stopped responding. He checked the country's main websites. Air Koryo, the state airline, down. Naenara, the regime's official portal, down. The state news agency, offline. He refreshed, but there was only the void. It was working. The digital ghost was being exorcised, one server at a time, by a lone avenger no one even knew existed. But holding a nation hostage, even online, has consequences. Across the planet, a strange new reality set in. North Korea was gone. Independent network monitors, which track the uptime of websites globally, confirmed the anomaly. Their charts for North Korean domains, usually stable, were a sea of red. A veteran researcher who had monitored the country's traffic for years saw what he described as a massive, mysterious wave of attacks that he couldn't attribute to anyone. The country's few routers that connected it to the outside world were paralyzed, its websites unreachable. Inside North Korea, the impact on ordinary citizens was negligible. Less than 1% of the population has access to the global internet anyway. This wasn't an attack on the people. It was a direct blow to the regime's ego, blinding its propaganda machine. An entire country had been digitally unplugged. But as the system went dark, a question began to light up intelligence agencies around the world. Who had the power and the motive to do this? In the vacuum of information, speculation became the only currency. The timing was too perfect. North Korea had just launched a barrage of missile tests, and this blackout felt like the obvious response. Surely, this was the work of US Cyber Command, sending a quiet but firm message to Kim Jong-un. Or perhaps it was a rival Asian power, engaging in a bit of digital saber rattling. The world's greatest intelligence bodies spun theories, searching for the signature of a state-sponsored attack. They found nothing. No government claimed responsibility. No hacking collective took credit. The mystery only deepened the narrative. From his home, P4X watched the global guessing game unfold with a grim satisfaction. He saw the world's most powerful nations attribute his personal vendetta to a geopolitical chess move. He had humbled a brutal regime without anyone knowing his name. But for a man like P4X, simply embarrassing them wasn't enough. He wanted to make them feel what he had felt, vulnerable. Victory was satisfying, but P4X knew a temporary blackout was just a bloody nose. The regime's hackers would continue their attacks on the West, and he wanted to create a more permanent problem for them. So he decided to escalate. His new goal wasn't just to knock their systems offline, but to break into them, steal their data, and expose their secrets to the world. But he knew that even he had limits. To multiply his firepower, he created a covert website on the dark web. The Funk Project, an acronym for FU North Korea. It was a rallying cry, a recruitment drive for a vigilante cyber army. This is a project to keep North Korea honest, the site declared. Not everyone in the security community applauded his methods. Some worried his noisy attacks could disrupt sensitive, ongoing intelligence operations by allied governments. Others pointed out the obvious. Under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, he was committing serious felonies. He was now operating on multiple fronts, against a rogue state, against the expectations of his own government and against the clock. Sooner or later, a ghost this loud gets noticed. So, where does a story like this end? For now, P4X remains a ghost in the machine, unidentified, unpunished, and unbowed. Law enforcement hasn't come knocking. North Korea, it seems, still has no idea that its national humiliation was authored by one man in his slippers. His conscience, he insists, is clear. He believes he is doing what his own government has failed to do, pushing back against a regime that operates with total impunity. His message isn't just for Pyongyang, it's for Washington. He hopes his rogue actions will highlight the need to protect individual citizens from state-sponsored cyber attacks. If the official guardians won't act, he has proven that a determined individual can. He continues his work from the shadows, a faceless hacker forcing a repressive regime to look over its shoulder. The first shots in this strange private war were fired without consequence. But in the shadowy world of espionage and digital retribution, the last shot is the only one that truly matters, and it hasn't been fired yet.